All right, we're live again here in the Doomsday's Krypt. Feel good. I'm home, not in my blank background that I usually am at it during the week. So it's always good to have my cutouts and all my stuff around me. And tonight we got James D, the
Right.
real James D, not
Yeah.
that other guy you keep hearing about. And we're
No.
here to talk about XXX-MAS. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about this. You're actually in Missouri, the same state I am,
Yeah.
although you're all the way out in St. Louis and I'm in Kansas City area,
Yeah.
which is still cool. Man, I driven through St. Louis so many a times. I visited there. Unfortunately, the weather was bad when I visited there, but always
Yeah.
cool to see the arch.
Yeah. 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 It's driving through the city's interesting. I've lived a little bit of everywhere in St. Louis, and I don't know. I think I'm definitely more of a suburbs guy than a city guy at this point. But
I
yeah,
agree.
yeah, yeah. I've lived. I guess it was kind of in the city, not like high rise city, but like yeah, in that area, and it was okay. A lot of road work. I feel like a lot of crime, if I'm being honest. So,
Oops.
but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm outside of Kansas City, and
Right, right.
it's like I'm from Massachusetts, which my old town, I was kind of a small town. I went back a few years back and it was just a nightmare. Like you were saying, potholes. It was just like visiting something
Yeah.
else. And where I live now kind of reminds me of where I grew up. So I like it.
Oh, yeah,
Suburbs, nice, no
yeah,
traffic, can get
yeah.
around, can actually go somewhere without having to wait 6 hours to do it. So I feel you.
Yeah. People ask about like any intent on me ever wanting to go to like California or Hollywood or anything like that. And I tell them it sounds like a nightmare. Like it sounds horrible to me. That's the last thing I think I'd want to do.
My sister lives in California. She's like, you should come out and visit. I'm like, now I got some friends out there. I'm sure at some point I'll
Yeah.
go out there, but I don't know if I could live out there. I don't know if I could afford to live out there.
Right.
That East Coast or West Coast. It's
Yeah.
nice because out here you can actually afford to live.
I was gonna say I have a co-writer who I've worked with a couple times, and I've sent him packages, and he lives in New York, and he lives in the Bronx, and he and his wife, when I was writing out the address, it's I don't know, South Fifth Street or so, I don't know what the address was, but it's like, and then at the bottom of it you have to put basement because they're literally renting the basement of an apartment. It's like, and they're probably spending $2,500 a month for it. I
I
don't
was
know the
just gonna
details.
say,
Yeah, yeah. It's
yeah.
nuts, man. The cost of East Coast and West Coast living is just it's nuts for sure.
Even when I lived on the Northeast, and I lived right by like Foxborough Stadium. A lot of the Patriots live out there now,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh man, the prices. Even when I was growing up, it was starting to get more and more ridiculous. I
Yeah,
mean, studio apartments, I think, for where I'm around are like what you said, $1,500 to $2,000 for a studio apartment.
yeah, yeah. It's nuts. Yeah,
No, no, I'm good. I am definitely good on that.
it's crazy,
But
man.
but welcome to the show, man. I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to talking about this triple Xmas. Got
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit of everything in there.
It, it
I'm interested in learning more for sure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, where do you want me to start? I could tell you a little bit about the background. We actually released our first film this year in January. So and then we shot our second film over the summer, and then now we're in pre-production and raising funds for our third film. So this has been a very interesting and busy year. And so yeah, Triple Xmas, it's gonna be fun. Like there's certain films and certain filmmakers, especially in like the 80s, that I absolutely loved. And I mean, you're a horror fan, so I don't have to go too much into it, but like Sam Raimi and Peter, honestly, I love Sam Raimi. I do, and I love Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2 is one of my favorite
Yeah.
movies. But Peter Jackson in the 80s, to me, is kind of the sweet spot. Like Bad Taste and Brain Dead, Dead Alive. Like that movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. And the amount of gore, I have a soft spot for like Splat Stick, where it's
Yeah.
so over the top gory. I don't know. There's something about that like it just makes me smile. It's like, okay, obviously intestines don't look like that, and obviously they're not quite that bloody. It's always also interesting. You got me down like a gore path now. When I'm talking to like FX people that are on my team, they ask, how realistic do you want this? And I've been heading more in the direction of I want it realistic, but let's amp it up. Like, let's add extra blood. Let's make it look realistic-ish, but it's for the camera. It's for a movie about a killer Santa. I mean, let's exaggerate it a little bit, you know.
I'm all about it, man. I grew up. I'm an '80s kid. I was born in
Yeah.
'76, so '80s
Okay.
was like. I mean, I was the perfect age for horror
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
We got some great people in the chat right now. Steve Merlo, who did the Sawyer Massacre, just did over eight. He's hitting almost at 100,000 views on YouTube for his
Yeah.
fan film.
Yeah.
Know one of the associate producers. Yeah, Creative Critter, good to see you. Artist Michael Toth, who did all these cool cutouts, does the designs for Doomsday's Krypt.
Those are amazing,
man. And Silent Shred's here, and I'm sure a few other people in the background. We got 7 right now. It's been fluctuating between 7 and 10. I'm sure we'll get a few more people in here. But that's incredible. So you're kind of an '80s horror fanatic, and you like the over the top, even if it's ridiculous, Toxic Avenger type killing too, or it's just it's not like intestines. It looks ridiculous, but
right.
it's just kind of gore.
So I feel like I'm kind of a little bit like I hate limiting myself to like one specific genre or specific approach to storytelling, right? And I feel like that may hurt me in the long run. But like my first movie was about a lesbian nun with an eye patch and a katana that hunted down corrupt clergy and Nazis and like gang members, right? Way over the top. But there was still there was some subtext to it, and there was it was an exploitation film through and through, but there were some things we didn't exploit on purpose. Our second film, Absolution, it's like much more in line with like Blue Ruin, like Jeremy Saulnier's Blue Ruin. Like that was one of the inspirations for it, with just a little, because I can't get away from the exploitation altogether, with just a little bit of like Death Wish, thrown in, because who doesn't love little Charles Bronson, and then XXX-MAS would definitely be stepping more back into exploitation, horror. Like this would be honestly the first true horror film that I've made. I would say like a nunsploitation, and I've made like an action thriller, kind of on the edge of horror because it gets pretty horrific at moments. But this would be the first all-out horror film, and I want it to feel very much like a horror film, But yeah, taking inspiration, the '80s films were definitely. I was born in 1980, but I was the youngest of 3 children, and the other 2 were way older than me. And so I was always hanging out with people that were way older than me. Like they were 17 years older than me, the next one up. So, at 5, I watched The Exorcist. So like at a very early age, I started experiencing a lot of these '80s films that we're talking about. And I mean, I fell in love with them. Of course I fell in love with them. They're freaking awesome, So they definitely inspire me, for sure. I try not to replicate exactly what these filmmakers were doing, because I think that's just a losing avenue to pursue. First of all, these are amazing filmmakers who were amazing then, even, and if you're trying to outdo Sam Raimi at being Sam Raimi, you're just going to fall on your face and look like an idiot. And a lot of people don't want to tell filmmakers that, but that's the truth. You're not going to out Sam Raimi. So if you can take that as inspiration and tell a new story and tell it in your own way, but like have that, like, it's like using a seasoning, right? You can still use the seasonings he used. Just don't tell his stories and don't try to replicate every little thing that he did, that's my approach. So I love paying homage to 80s films. They're my favorites, but I don't want to replicate them exactly, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense, man.
Yeah.
You got to be you as a filmmaker. If you'd be like in a band, you'd be a cover band like this.
Yeah.
Let's say Kiss cover band. They're great. They're fun to watch. I've seen a lot of them, but you'll never be Kiss because there's only one. But if you take inspiration from it and you say, "Oh man, I love this movie," and what this guy Sam Raimi did in this movie, I enjoyed what Wes Craven did in this movie, so on. John Carpenter, I love how he did his films this way, but I got my own idea. I'm going to use it this way. I'm going to take what I love and make it my own, and
Yeah,
not
yeah,
try to be Sam Raimi, not try to be John Carpenter, not try
right.
to be Wes Craven.
There was a shot that was inspired in Fontaine and the Vengeful Nun Who Wouldn't Die, and it was inspired by the weirdest of places. It was inspired by Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like, just watching a lot of films, seeing a shot and saying, hey, they use this shot in this way, but I think it would work really good in this scene for this particular purpose. It's nothing, I mean, like, Ferris Bueller is obviously a comedy.
Yeah,
But it worked really well from what I was trying to convey in that moment and what's the story I was trying to do with the story in that scene, and it was cool. And it wasn't exactly like they did, which is nice because you're kind of like, again, you're kind of taking seasons, or like, it's kind of like using paint, like I can paint with red and you can paint with red and we're going to end up with different paintings,
right.
First of all, I'm a shitty painter. I just, so I can't even do fucking stick figures, but being able to use those colors and use them in your own way, I think it's fun,
Absolutely, man. I mean, like you said, you could play the same chords or anything. You could use the same chords, but if you have your own blend, you can take the same ingredients, make your own food. As long as you put your own self into it and you make it your own. And everybody's got to be inspired by something. I mean, every movie
Right.
maker is. From George Lucas. George Lucas was inspired by old Flash Gordon and stuff and created
Yeah.
Star Wars. So, that just goes throughout history. So no matter whether you're a filmmaker, musician, chef, since we use them, you're going to always have inspirations. You're always going to learn from other people, but you make it your own too. You make it your own twist, like XXX-MAS.
Yeah. Even if you go, because I love all kinds of films. Like, I think that's one thing that people often like think I just love bad movies or B movies or exploitation films, and I do love those. But like, even if you look at a film like The Magnificent Seven, it's been remade so many times. Kurosawa did, Seven Samurai. That was, that's a version of that movie. I think that might have been, I could be getting it wrong, but that might have been the first version, or maybe he was inspired by another. John Carpenter, The Thing. People think that's the original often, but of course it's not. He was inspired by a '50s version of it. The was it A Thing from Another Planet or something? I don't remember the name of it. But
It's something. I forget what it was too, but
yeah.
But he did make it something way better. Nobody really remembers the original. The practical effects, what he did with that movie. Halloween will always be my favorite, just because '78, because of the impact it left to me. But man, The Thing's right up there with my favorite John Carpenter movie, and there's quite a few of them.
It's so easy for me to just start geeking out over movies instead of talking about something I'm creating. But like, The Thing is just fantastic to me. It's probably my favorite movie of his, but I love a lot of his stuff. So it's hard. You go back and forth,
Oh man, I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. Once you get me starting to talk about horror and different horror movies, and I start thinking about the memories and the experience growing up in the '80s. I like that as much as watching the movies, as the experience with my friends, watching a good horror flick, and sneaking some beers that an older friend would buy, and be like 12, 13, popping some beers and watching some horror or something, doing something stupid.
No, yeah, for sure, that makes sense. Yeah.
But XXX-MAS. So you've done 2 other films.
Yeah.
And this is your first straight up, you'd say, horror film.
I would definitely say that. Yeah.
What inspired you to write XXX-MAS? A little bit of love of XXX and a little bit of love of horror, or just you thought it'd be fun on the set of a XXX movie and having a slasher there?
Right. So actually, there's a couple things that I haven't talked a whole lot about, but there's something that's very interesting to me, right? And I try not to get like political, or I definitely don't get political, but I try not to like shove my feelings too much out there, but I also still include it a little bit in my films at one level or at one level or another. And that is so I see a lot of people online like harassing women, and I see a lot of people like dehumanizing sex workers in general. And it kind of pisses me off, Then often these are the same people that watch porn and, are consumers of it, but then they turn around and they sit there and they want to like say negative things or you know. And so there is a subtext in XXX-MAS that's there, you know. Um, but what inspired me, I don't even remember. I was probably on edibles, and I was,
You
and
gotta have inspiration,
yeah,
man.
you do. And oh, you know what? I do know what inspired me. There was someone that had messaged me when we were shooting Absolution over the summer, and she wants to get into horror films and she wants to start pursuing practical effects. Her name's Lillian, and I've never met her in person, and I've had a lot of people message me on Facebook wanting to be involved in some way. And more often than not, I usually try to vet them a little bit because I don't know who these people are, and I don't know how a lot of people say they want to do something, but when they see how much work it takes, they're like, oh no. And then they just never come back or they don't show up again, which is, people don't understand how much work it takes to make a movie. And we talked for like an hour on the way home from me driving home from a job I was on. And her talking about all these different kinds of kills she liked, and me talking about all these kinds of practical effects I liked. And something in my head clicked, a killer Santa film, which of course there's been a lot of that recently, a lot of like holiday horror. Ours definitely, I've never seen what we're doing with our film done. Maybe it has been done. There's a lot of movies out there I haven't seen. But so that kind of conversation with her sparked a couple ideas in my head of Santa having a breakdown. And then as a result of that breakdown, just losing his shit and targeting sex workers, especially like, porn stars on a holiday themed porn shoot. And from there, I wrote a really quick draft in like maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And then I sent it over to my co-writer, who often helps me clean up my scripts. And we're currently fleshing out the characters a little better, giving it a second draft, and then there'll be a third draft. But that conversation is what sparked in my head, just talking about different kinds of kills. And, the holidays were kind of coming up. This was a couple months ago. This was back in October, I think. Yeah, that's really all it took. It's the weirdest places where inspiration sparks.
Hey, inspiration comes from all over, and
Yeah,
you can never have enough Christmas horror. That's my opinion.
I love it. It's so funny. Right after we decided to push forward with it, I realized just how much of it not only is like in the bigger realm, but also like even in the indie realm. I didn't know Joe Vegas had his movie coming out. I had heard of was it Violent Night? With
Yep.
yeah, with David Harbour. I had heard of that, but then like the next day after I decided to push forward on this, I heard of is it Bloody? It's the Joe Begos one that was on Shudder. So it's like, and then I started seeing everybody else, because now I follow and interact with a lot of filmmakers on Facebook, and everybody does have a horror holiday film. But you know what? I'm with you. The more, the merrier. And I like that what we're doing, and I haven't given it away, and I don't plan on giving it away. I want to keep some things spoiler free. Like I said, I've never seen it done this way. One thing that I haven't announced publicly is that we have a pretty vicious little killer elf also that's going to be in the film. So that'll be fun, and just some of the kills with Santa, how Santa first shows up on the scene with his first kill. That's it. Christmas, Bloody Christmas. But just how Santa shows up on the scene of XXX-MAS, it's easily my favorite kill in the film, and it is inspired by another film, but I think the way it's being handled here is so different that I'm excited to shoot it, and I'll be excited to see people's. At the premiere, I will not be watching the film for that scene. I will be watching the audience to see how they react, because they're not going to be expecting it. And I'm so excited to see what people's reactions will be to that kill. It's going to be bloody and fun and kind of horrific. Kind of, yeah.
Well, it's gotta be. It's gotta be.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, me, as long as you got good kills and practical effects, and you have some sort of story in there, I'm happy with a horror film. Now, if you have a bad story and bad, shitty kills, then it kind of ruins it. But if you at least have good kills in it, everything in a horror movie for me can kind of work out if you have a decent narrative. That's my opinion.
I definitely will let a lot of things pass in a film if I'll let a lot of things pass if the practical effects are really good. So I have a podcast with a filmmaker, and we interview other filmmakers. And the one thing that are kind of pet peeves of ours is when filmmakers are lazy, not when, like, everyone is at a different level of skill, right? And
Oh,
money will inhibit you from being able to achieve certain things. But there is moments where it's very obvious that people just didn't put in the time or effort when they're making a film,
oh yeah.
and that kind of irks me a little bit. I mean, because you're having all these people around, and you're bringing all these people in. Most of the time, most of the cast and crew are there for very little, or or sometimes nothing. You're feeding. Sometimes you're feeding them not even. We try to feed everybody like better food, but sometimes people are being fed like half warm pizza.
Oh, oh, trust me, I get it. Like my thing with, you have to have a competent story. You have to put energy in,
Yeah,
but you have to have creative kills in a slasher. Now you can have a
yeah, for sure.
psychological killing, story, narrative where it's
Yeah,
more psychological, like Psycho, obviously, where you don't need the blood. Even
yeah,
Halloween '78 was more a psychological horror
yeah,
than it was a slasher film. But if you're gonna do a slasher film, you better have at least a couple of really creative kills that are different. There's
yeah,
always different ways. And if you can have some of those, you can make it fun. Now, I agree with you. You don't want to have it where it's just totally lazy. Oh, we got one great kill, but the rest of it doesn't matter. There has to be some sort of flow and interest to it, either whether it's characters you like that you want to see killed or characters you don't like that you want to see killed. It has to be one way or the other, at least for me.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And I love taking a viewer on a ride of sorts. Sometimes with a character that you may or may not like, and maybe give them a redeeming arc, maybe not. Maybe it appears like a redeeming arc, and then they're just there. The Sorry, I was reading the comments. Someone just
yeah, yeah, I am too. That's Michael Toth. You got to make it bloody. 8 ounces. He's going light. He's saying on the minimum kill. That's if you're losing a fingernail.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so on Fontaine, we went through 7 gallons of blood. I was talking to Derek Worley, who is the FX person, the head of makeup or the head of practical effects for XXX-MAS, and we were talking more in line with like 10 gallons of blood. I was sending him, it's funny, I was sending him Facebook messages about the new Evil Dead film, and they were talking about like how they used industrial sinks to mix their blood. And he's like, oh man, I really wish we could do that. I was like, yeah, I mean, we don't have millions of dollars, so we can't, obviously, but let's make it as bloody and gory as possible. And that was the discussion, that was the first discussion I think we had, was he said, I want to really up my game with making this the goriest, nastiest film I've ever made. And Derek Worley's been on tons of productions, so as practical effects, the head of practical effects. So to hear him say that, and then to know that that's where I'm coming from already, it made me feel really good. And that's what we want to deliver on with the kills.
You got to have them stand out. If it's a slasher, if it's a
Yeah,
straight up slasher, and that's XXX-MAS, it sounds like it's going to
it,
be, you want to make it brutal. You want to make it fun. You
yeah,
want to make it for the holidays, for the
yeah.
family
Oh,
to sit around and watch,
yeah, yeah, for
Kids, you're
sure,
done opening your presents? Let's watch XXX-MAS.
for sure. Yeah, I agree
We
one hundred
watched the
percent.
Christmas Story 3 times already. It's been on a loop. Let's throw in a little XXX-MAS.
You watch it every year. This is a new classic. This is the
There you
new
go.
tradition. Yes, yes.
I'm down. Uh, Michael Moustakos, I always say, I stutter his name, Moustakos. I just got his movie in today. He's here, very talented filmmaker out there in California. Um, he's saying red and dark cranberry juice food coloring with your Marin blood. Yeah. He knows quite a bit. He's doing some pretty cool horror too. I love talking to all you filmmakers, and it's cool
Yeah.
when I see you guys in the chat. So I've definitely he's a talent too, man. So what do you use for your blood mixture? Or don't you know? You just let those guys do their handiwork.
So it just depends. It really depends on what the effect is and what we're trying to accomplish. In the first 2 films, we actually had quite a few gunshot like squibs. um, we actually had quite a few squibs, so we had to water down the blood a little bit because we had to shoot it out like it looked like they were being shot. But we have a couple different blood mixtures, and then my makeup person also had a mouth blood. And in general, I don't remember what we used, to be honest with you. She had 3 different kinds of blood on set depending on what was being used, because like the typical blood, stage blood, you can't put in your mouth, it's toxic. So yeah, so
but blood capsules you can, those usually seem to be the best.
They actually make little containers. It's way more expensive, but you can actually, there's little vials of it also. So yeah, there's ways to get around it.
Yeah, so I'm taking your practical effects all the way. Or you like a mix? Yeah.
No, yes. So with Fontaine, it was probably 90% practical effects. We did have to do some VFX just because of budget. There was a scene where Mary, the lead character, runs through and she basically fights 7 to 8 gang members with a sword, and she kills them. And what you end up with is, it's a safety issue running through that many people, even with choreography being pre-planned, practiced. So what we did is we had her run through with just a sword hilt, and then we digitally added back in the blade. So you don't
want somebody to get hurt. You got to have safety first.
You do. But I think where people really have issues with visual effects are put in films all the time, and people when they don't see it, which is more often than not.
It's blended nice, yeah.
Yes, when it's blended properly. Where people start to have issue is with really bad VFX for blood, like blood squirts. And then if you sit on something that was all VFX for a gore shot, it just doesn't seem like it translates well. I've seen VFX work amazingly when it's combined with practical effects. The Walking Dead TV show walked the line. They were usually on the good side with that, but they implemented visual effects with practical effects all the time.
I think when it first started with The Walking Dead, maybe the first 4 or 5 seasons, I think they really nailed it. And then AMC kind of, then some of it just got not as good. Not as good, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well,
but I'm with you, though. A good blend, because with VFX, it's good to have. If you have the budget for the practical and you can blend it in just right and make it where you don't know it's VFX, and you can pull it off that way, I think it's perfect. But like you said, if it just pops and sticks out and stands out like a sore thumb, it's not good.
Yeah, and for XXX-MAS, my goal is to have all practical effects with no VFX added at all. Inevitably, what will happen is there'll be 1, 2, or 3 shots that will need cleaning up in some capacity. It always happens that way. But honestly, from a filmmaking perspective, I'd prefer to use as little VFX as possible, because all that does is add time and cost after everything is wrapped. And so then you're in post-production and you're spending more money than you already planned on spending. And it's taking more time because you have to wait for someone. I don't do VFX work. I don't have that level of skill. So I have to hire someone, and, it's more time, more money. And indie film, you don't have those 2 things typically.
Yeah. My buddy, Nick Benson, I don't know if you know who he is. He worked on Nightmare on Elm Street 4. He's worked on just tons of movies back in the 80s. He's big into now blending the 2 also. He's big on that. Because he's like, because I was always practical. He's like, but with the new technology blended in well, he's like, you can do some amazing things. And I agree with him on that. So
you really can.
Big shout out to Nick.
Yeah. Something that a lot of people don't even realize is something Tarantino does. And I guess we're kind of we're not talking about practical effects, but we are talking about visual effects work being done. He'll stitch 2 different cuts together to get the performance he wants. So if someone's on one side of the frame and someone's on the other side of the frame, and he liked the way one person was delivering lines, but he didn't like the way the one person on the other side was reacting, he will visually stitch those shots together and make it the shot he wants. That's visual effects, but because you don't realize it, because he has people doing it that know what they're doing, and it just works, and he gets the exact performance he wants. And so, there's always a place for it. it's like, it's like a tool, and some tools are better at some jobs than others. And when it comes to gore that gives you that, like, that makes you like smile and think about the 80s, VFX isn't going to do that,
No,
it's
no,
not
no.
going to
Those
it's not going to give
practical
you that
effects.
feeling.
I think the one of my greatest things to watch is you'll watch like even old old zombie Dawn of the Dead. The blood was
Mhm.
so much different in the way it progressed as you watched it
Yeah,
as it goes on to the 80s even to now where it went from you could tell that's just fake blood to how real
yeah,
it started looking
yeah.
towards the end of the 80s. It was always fun to watch that
For,
progression as a kid.
for sure, for sure. I was always a fan of Day of the Dead out of the three, and I get the significance of the first two, and I love them as well. But Day had this like dark, gritty, like very nihilistic undertones to the movie, and the gore just felt. I mean, it felt a little like you said. There was like that evolution, and I think Day came out in like '85, something like that, and the blood was darker and red, and it didn't have that neon color that kind of the '70s blood a lot of the giallos had, which I love also. Like it's a
Yeah,
completely different, distinct look that gives a different feel.
it's a nostalgia feel almost
For
when you
sure.
watch it now. I mean, you just know the timeline when you see certain scenes like
Yeah.
blood, especially blood back in horror movies. You can tell, oh, that's from the 70s, that's from the early 80s. You can just see the evolution in every film. Even if you
Yeah.
don't remember what year, you can almost watch, oh, the blood, oh, it's 85.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, and then now filmmakers, that are trying to recreate those kinds of movies or to try to pay homage to like a giallo film, they'll go out of their way to make the blood look that way, or they'll try to, purchase blood that has that similar look to the films of the '70s. It's really interesting to try to like replicate it. I don't know. It's interesting.
Kind of like bringing bell bottoms back. Those
Yeah,
styles always kind of go through a cycle. As long
for
as you don't
sure.
get disco, I'll be good.
Got the little disco ball going.
Exactly. I might get one down here. I might make everything pop. I have the black light, so definitely back to like the 80s, 90s
Yeah.
and stuff with that. Because a lot of these are actually black light cutouts, which
Okay.
now I'm all into that, man. I'll trippy with them, but that's another story. But yeah, man, I'm excited for this movie and the fact that you're filming in Missouri. I think cool as hell.
Yeah, we've
Um,
actually filmed all three. This will be the third film we've shot here. Yeah, I was trying to think. Yeah, all three will have been filmed here. We haven't stepped out of Missouri. We've definitely traveled south a little bit for the church that we acquired for Fontaine, just because finding a Catholic church, something that's still within the archdiocese, is pretty. It's difficult, especially with what the things we shot. So you know. Um,
I I think outside the cities, Missouri is kind of unnoticed of what it can, potential for filming locations in a sense.
Sure, sure. Well, we also don't do ourselves any favors with the way that we don't offer any real tax incentives. I mean, you have
Yeah,
shows like Ozark that, it geographically in the show takes place in Missouri, but
yep.
wasn't filmed in Missouri
It was in
because,
Georgia.
yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, because Georgia has amazing tax credits for filmmakers
Yeah,
and for larger companies. It's unfortunate. Yeah, it kind of sucks, but
yeah.
it's a reality.
They got to jump on the market and start thinking about those things because it's a great area to film nowadays because there still is a lot of open
There's so much.
areas. Yeah,
There
there's so
really
many good,
is.
and
But even
the seasons are almost identical to the Northeast. The only thing you're missing is the beach, really.
yeah, yeah. No, I feel like there's a lot of small towns in Missouri that you could really just like sneak away to, and there's so much production value. Depending on what you're shooting and how you approach it and who you're talking to as far as securing locations. A lot. I mean, yeah, again, it depends on what you're shooting, but I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are pretty understandable. And so, like for our last film, we did go over to Illinois to shoot one or two scenes, and we got a market for free. Like a mom and pop market
Oh,
let
no.
us use their location for free, and not just use it, but one of the gang members in that scene had a part where he was knocking groceries off the shelves, and I discussed this with them in advance, and I said if we break anything, of course we'll pay for it. If anything spills open, we'll clean it. Um, and they didn't charge a single penny for us to use their location. I mean, you're not going to get
That's
that in
awesome.
LA. You're not.
No, no, hell
Yeah,
no.
yeah. or Georgia.
No, no, no. There's some great people out here,
Yeah.
especially they're just southern. The Midwest politeness is almost scary nice with a lot of them. And there's so many great like farmhouse locations,
Yep.
open locations, woods locations that
Yeah.
to me it's an ideal place to shoot films. Like you said, the tax part kind of sucks, but
But
if they
also
could fix that, we'd be in
for,
good shape out here.
for indie filmmakers, like the flip side of that is that Georgia's tax credits, to my understanding, and I haven't looked into them, but I've heard and I've seen filmmakers who are right at that level of starting to qualify for those. You don't start to really qualify for those in Georgia until you hit a $500,000 spending amount anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, what very few indie filmmakers are playing in that ballpark. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what I mean. I don't think you'd have too much problems filming the way most indie films are filmed
Yeah,
out here in Missouri without, outside of cities and stuff like that, where
right.
you'd be harassed unless you for a small budget
No,
film and not a big crew, and
yeah, yeah. It's
like
not
you
like you're
said,
bringing in massive sky panels and
yeah,
100 people. Yeah, no, it's not happening.
cranes and
Yeah,
building
no,
sets,
no,
huge sets anyway. Yeah,
yeah, it's just not happening.
no, no, no. I think it's a great area to film. I know one of my buddies, Jason Pitts, films out in Arkansas, and the scenery is great out there for filming.
Yeah.
Also, so yeah, I think we're lucky out here. So I'm
Oh
with
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think honestly, I want to do a lot more traveling in my life, but I always see myself returning to St. Louis. Um, yeah. So
That's where conventions has been fun for me. Because
yeah,
I've been to Florida. I lived in Florida. My parents are out there. So I went to Florida twice last year. I went to Minneapolis, which I'd never been to. I went to Kentucky, I'd never been to. And I drove through a bunch of states I'd never been to and kind of
right,
was
right.
able to check it out. So yeah, it's cool to travel. I've been living in Missouri now. God, it's been like 10 years now. It's crazy.
Yeah,
And
goes by
yeah,
quick.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Well, yeah, the older you get, the faster it goes. It's like, damn.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I was in my 30s still when I moved here. Damn.
You mentioned XXX-MAS. We do have an Indiegogo campaign.
Yeah, I want to check. I want to put that up here. Let me throw it up. We can go through some of the perks. You want to play your promotional trailer?
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
All right. Do you want to do it the full screen like that, or you want to keep us on screen like that?
Yeah, I think that's good right there. Yeah.
All right, let's do that. And all right, you're at a $30,000 fixed goal.
Yeah.
You're at $6,639. A long way to go, but I think you can get there with 80 backers. You got 22 days left. Let's play the trailer.
Oh,
And I'm sure.
hey. Hi, I'm James Dean, indie filmmaker. We're coming to you today to talk about a new film we're going to make, XXX-MAS. It's a killer Santa on a rampage, just slaughtering a bunch of porn stars on a holiday-themed porn shoot. I mean, what else could you ask for, really, during the holidays? I don't. When I think about holidays, I don't think about spending time with my family. I think about Santa killing people. Let's do it. Santa's pushed to the edge in this classic film for the ages, where he decides to attack and kill a bunch of porn stars on a Christmas-themed porn shoot. He goes after them one by one and using various weapons, fire pokers, shovels, and other items that we're not going to disclose at this time, takes them out. But it also has a commentary for anyone who's interested to look a little deeper on the dehumanization of sex workers. We have real life sex workers who are involved in the production, and getting notes and feedback from them was very important to me before going into production. Let's talk a little bit about the cast. We have some amazing talent involved. First of all, our Santa is played by the legendary indie film director and actor
Drew Marvick. He is playing Kris Kringle himself. I am so pumped to be working with him. What he's going to bring to this role is going to be menacing and fun and just crazy, and that's what I'm looking for in my Santa. We have Dolly Lee playing Julie Treats. If you don't know who she is, you should look her up, just not while you're at work. We have Morgan Thompson. She's a scream queen in the indie film arena, and she brings this unique badassness to the character of Kristi Kreem that I think is going to be fun. We have Jonathan May playing Black Mamba. He's playing an awesome character that can bring a little bit of levity to kind of a fucked up slasher film. And Jonathan is just so naturally funny that it's awesome to have him involved in this project. We have Jessa Flux, who plays Pearl. I think she's going to... It's going to be fun watching her play this character. And we have many, many other people involved. We have so many other cast members that haven't been announced that are going to be announced in the upcoming weeks. XXX-MAS is a gorehound's delight. It involves blood sprays and limbs flying off and all kinds of nasty, cool practical effects. So XXX-MAS is a film where we expect to deliver on the practical effects. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I mean, if you've seen Fontaine, you know what we do with the chainsaw. So that's all I can say. And we have two amazing special effects artists involved. Derek Worley, who's done tons of movies, and we have Hannah Richard, who's been with us on both of our feature films. Doing practical effects, capturing that 80s feel, and especially with horror films, it brings something to the viewer. It brings a tactile feedback. It brings something that can't quite be quantified with words. But, you know, when you see someone's head fly off and you know that it's a practical effect, like for me, it brings a smile to my face. Yes, I'm demented, but it's really cool. We have the team, we have the actors, we have so many talented individual people to bring you a truly fucked up holiday treat. We need your help. We need you to help us out. You can go to xxx-mas.com. It'll take you to our Indiegogo, and there's tons of perks you can look at. Potential for you to get a Blu-ray, a poster. You could even be in the movie. You could be a producer. So many different options. Please support XXX-MAS today and be a part of one of those movies your mom didn't want you to see.
Awesome. Was that wasn't a Savini head behind it, was it? That looks like almost Savini. Or was it the head that was supposed to be on the bus that was next to you?
Yes, yeah, it was. And it's the same one. So we actually reused that head at least twice, maybe 3 times in Fontaine. The facial hair was moved to match different actors because we didn't have enough funding to get another head made. So yeah, no, it's the head that comes off in the small shot that was shown with the sword, and then it's there's a curb stomp that occurs in Fontaine, and it's in that shot for about 6 frames, just enough to kind of connect one shot to the next. Yeah. So it was used multiple times.
I know those things can cost some money. I'm getting something made by a sculptor now. It's not cheap when you get those things made. So I get it.
Yeah, it's not.
You got a lot of perks here. The Secret Santa bundle on sale right now, 25% off.
Yeah.
Let's click on it here.
And that's something we just actually announced earlier this week. So yeah, it has the Blu-ray, an 8x10 of 1 star in the movie that they'll sign it, and then something that we hadn't had in before is a signed letter from Santa. So Drew Marvick, which I don't know if you're familiar with Drew Marvick, but he made Pool Party Massacre, and he's been in so many films.
He looks so familiar. He looks incredibly familiar. Yeah. I know I've seen him. I know I have.
He's a very fun guy, and he has a great look. When I saw Pool Party Massacre, and we had him set up to interview him on our podcast, and when I started writing the film, I thought right away, I was like, he would make a great Santa. And I had not known that he's actually already played Santa in different ways in a couple music videos and in a short film. So he has the experience, you know?
Kind of a
Yeah.
Bill Moseley look too.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we got that. That's a pretty cool perk for $100. You're getting a bunch of stuff. The 8x10 signed by one star. Now, is it a surprise star that you're going to have signed, or does the person get to choose one of the castmates to?
As
to
long as they
sign it?
specify who they'd like in advance, it can be pretty much anyone. If they wait and they don't tell us until a month or two before,
Yeah, you're going to get what you get, and you're going to like it.
Yeah.
A special thanks, which I think is always cool if you can't get one of these perks, but you want to help out the film. These $10 ones, they add up. Any filmmaker will tell you. Those are the ones that, if you're on a budget, but you want to do something to contribute to a film, I think that's great.
Yeah.
And that's a social media thank you. Big shout out to you on those. Stocking stuffers for an extra $5. You get the social media thanks and an IMDb credit and film credit. That's not a bad deal for $15 there. You got 9 claimed on those so far, 3 claimed on the other. A signed XXX-MAS poster. I do love the poster. I do love that.
Yeah.
That's a badass poster.
It's
7
great.
claimed. Oh, go ahead.
I'll say Holly Matney. If anyone's looking for someone to do a poster, she did the poster for us. Holly Matney. She's on Instagram and she's on Facebook. And I don't remember so it's based off of a photograph that was taken by one of Drew Marvick's friends. And I don't remember his name, but I can try to find it. But yeah, she does great work.
That thing would make a great neon sign.
Yeah.
The XXX-MAS, just the lettering. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. That was kind of the idea when she made the poster, was to do that for sure. Yeah.
I dig it. Let's see. We at the digital download. So for $25, you get the digital download. You get an IMDb credit and a film credit. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And the signed DVD. Is it signed just by, like you said, if you give you a heads up who you want to sign it, they'll sign it for you?
It'll probably most likely be signed by the cast members that are local to St. Louis. So me, Dolly Lee, a few of the other ones. I don't know that it'll include every cast member, just because the DVDs won't be, the movie has to be made, and a lot of these stars aren't local. A couple of them are in Vegas. So, yeah.
Well, for $30, that's a good deal, even with a couple autographs or even one autograph on it.
For sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? You'd lose money if you're shipping to everybody all over the place. So I get that.
Yeah.
But you also get the IMDb and film credit. I think that's cool you're doing that. And the Christmas DVD. Now the Christmas Blu-ray, same thing, except you get a Blu-ray.
Yeah, and actually the Blu-ray has more space on the disc, so there will be additional special features on the Blu-ray. There might be a few on the DVD, but there won't be as many for sure. It's funny because like on the Blu-ray for Fontaine, there's tons of BTS footage, and most of it is of us going through and implementing the practical effects. So you're not seeing what the camera sees, you're seeing how it's going down, which is fun. Yeah. Because if you don't know how those things are done, and then you kind of watch it, and then you go back and you see, it's fun. Plus, you never know. Like on set, I feel like people do the goofiest stuff, and the cameras are rolling way more often than you realize. Because people also have phones on their camera, or cameras on their phone rather, and so. Like on Fontaine, one of the nuns, she has a black belt for real. A couple people in Fontaine had black belts in real life, and the one brought nunchucks one day, and there's no nunchuck scene with that nun in the movie, but someone was shooting her just in her nun in her habit, fucking doing nunchucks. So I included it in
nunchuck. Hey, nothing wrong with that. If she was good at it, that's a pretty cool extra perk.
Yeah. It's kind of funny also if you think about it, because it's called nunchuck and it was a nunchucking. So
that's funny. That is funny. Well, since we're on the on Fontaine and the Vengeful Nun, where can everybody watch these films? Just
Fontaine's available on Amazon Prime and on Tubi. Full disclosure, if you're going to watch a film for any indie filmmaker, if you're not going to pay to rent it or purchase it, go to Tubi. They are hands down the best paying right now for filmmakers. It's just the best way. You have to watch a few commercials, but you're getting to watch it for free, and you're supporting the filmmaker.
Yeah, I love Tubi to death. It's honestly, if hands down, even though it's free, the commercials aren't. They're usually good places because one of the filmmakers I spoke to, you could almost choose and kind of give an idea where you want to put the commercials in.
Yep.
And the commercials aren't bad. Kind of gives you a chance to go get a drink or popcorn to watch a movie, and they're not overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure. You can also get a Blu-ray of Fontaine the Vengeful Nun Who Wouldn't Die at monsterkidfilms.com.
Okay.
Yeah, we have Blu-rays available also. So
I did put all the links in the description, so everybody who's there, I got the links for the Indiegogo, and I grabbed a few different links for you and put them in there for your Facebook groups and pages too.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll definitely check this out. Hey, a girl with a chainsaw, big ass chainsaw. I'll be watching that, and I'm gonna watch Fontaine and Vengeful Nun Who Wouldn't Die. All right, well, let's go through these perks, and then we can. Another 8x10 signed, 1 star, $60 on that. I think that's a pretty cool perk. I've taken it. We
just announced that one also. Yeah, that's a newer one also of this week. So yeah,
very cool. And there's only 25, so that's a limited thing. VHS rental copy of XXX-MAS. That's pretty cool. Rental tape from straight out of Santa's personal collection. Exclusive artwork, same as the Blu-ray, very limited availability, plus a digital download. Very cool. Very, very cool. Screen use prop. So I'm taking it a murder weapon. It could be anything from an axe to saw or anything you kind of can imagine.
It could be a lot of things. I know I mentioned a fire poker and a there's at least a handful of items used. I don't want to give too many things away, but yeah.
Screen worn wardrobe. Those are always cool.
Yeah, and that I don't know if I have that listed, but they'll be signed as well. So
okay,
yeah,
very cool. Associate producer credit for $297. That's always cool. You'll forever be immortalized in XXX-MAS video. Thanks. IMDb film credit, digital download, Blu-ray in the credit. That's a nice little deal there. Always good. I love being an associate producer and having that name on the.
I honestly think. I think that like the producer credits and the package deal at the top, the featured one, that the very first one we looked at, those I think are honestly the most bang for your buck because you get so many different items. I wanted to. I know not everyone can afford $300, and I totally get that. That's why I wanted to do the $100 deal where you got a combination of different items. And you can still kind of get a little bit of everything, as opposed to, and it's 100 versus 300.
Yeah, big difference, but it's definitely a cool perk to be a producer on any film.
Oh, for sure.
Especially if you're trying to get your name out there. Be a movie in the face.
Be in the movie O-Face edition.
O-Face, all right. I couldn't read.
Yeah. So that's essentially. That's essentially, it has a bunch of other items with it, but you record at home and we will put you in the film. It'll be in one of the moments where the director is reviewing a porn that he's already shot, and you're going to be one of the porn stars' faces as you're delivering your gifts to the other star.
Do you get to have your name, make up your own signature name, or do you come up with it?
That's a great idea. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? As long as it's not trademarked in any way, shape, or form. Which is funny enough, it's very difficult to find to make up like porn star names that aren't in some way taken. I had to do that was a wild thing, like going through Pornhub and X videos, just trying to make sure that none of these porn names I've created were taken in one way or another.
Like James Dean.
Right. Right.
Just kidding.
Right.
Be in the movie for a grant. That's pretty cool. Only two perks for that.
Yeah.
You get. I'll let you run through these perks.
Yeah. I mean, you get the film credit. You get. I mean, you get a lot of stuff. You get the digital download, the Blu-ray. You get an associate producer credit, and you get to be in the movie. But you get lines, so you're not just going to be in the background. You're going to have lines. Depending on how fast those are snatched up, we're going to try to write kills in for these characters also. So it's not that you're just in the background passing. You'll more than likely die in the film in some capacity. So yeah.
That's what you want to do if you're going to be in a horror film. You want to get killed. You want to get bloody.
Yeah, for sure.
And the great thing about it being, XXX-MAS, anybody who's watched one of those films knows you don't have to be the best actor. Actually, probably the more wooden of a actor you can be is probably better for the plot, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing on that.
No, I know what you're saying.
Executive producer on the film. IMDb credit. IMDb and film credit. Signed XXX-MAS poster. Digital download of XXX-MAS. XXX-MAS Blu-ray. Screen used prop. Nice. And then this one's already sold out. Co-producer.
Yeah.
3 of 3. Gone.
Yeah. Those were some of the first ones to go, actually, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you got 22 days left, I think I see on the campaign.
Yeah. We have 22 days left. There is an option to extend it. It just kind of depends, because really what we're looking at is we want to shoot it before it gets too warm, before the trees start to, show. So, we're looking at late March to shoot it now, which still is right around the right time, at least for the exterior scenes. Yeah. And then we'll shoot what we need to follow up with that. And then just like any indie film or any film in general, you'll have principal photography, and then we'll probably come back and shoot little things here and there to fill in the gaps, pick up shots and whatnot. But I'm pretty excited about it. We still have a couple more announcements to make. We're in talks with a couple actors that I think will also help and bring a little more awareness to the campaign. But yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm pumped just to work with a lot of these actors. Like, I know we mentioned Drew and Jessa and Morgan, but they're all very prominent in the indie film space. And, and then Dolly, who has had quite the career in, porn in LA. This is her first full-length feature film. But yeah, this is her first full-length feature film, and she's super excited. She's no longer in the industry, but she's wanting to break into acting, and she actually lives local to me. And so it was nice meeting her and bringing her on board.
Indie films in general, to me, is very hot right now. So it's a great time for people to get into acting.
Yeah, for sure.
And to really star in some of these movies, especially with it's out there. If you feel like you have talent, there's definitely ways to get into the business now compared to maybe back when I was a kid, or even when you were a kid in the 80s. Oh, yeah. It wasn't like this. And
no.
And with social media, a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. And something that I mentioned a little bit earlier, but so I sent the script out to everybody, and I'm a very collaborative kind of filmmaker. I don't ever want to be like, hey, it's only this way, no other way. I mean, there are times where you kind of have to keep true to the story you're telling. You have to know when to be like, we don't have time to do all of this right now. But right now is the time where there's more options for collaboration. And I've never worked in the sex industry. And even though this is a film that's over the top about a killer Santa, I did ask for feedback on the sex workers and how they were being portrayed, because I didn't want to portray them in a way that wasn't true, I think at the end of the day, it's easy to be biased or to have certain things slip your mind when you're not involved with an industry of any kind, or if you've never been through something, or if you've never worked in a certain fashion,
Yeah, well, you want it for anybody who does understand it to have a sense of realism to it.
Yeah.
And be able to bring it to your movie instead of just going, this is how it is. Somebody will be watching and be like, that's not how it goes.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah. And same thing applied, I'm not female and I'm not a gay nun, So I didn't
Yeah.
consult any nuns when we wrote Fontaine. I was raised Catholic, so I thought I had a pretty good understanding of Catholicism, But I did consult, tons of people that were not a white male when
Yeah.
for notes, And I think it really helped, it really made the characters a little more rounded and just exposed anywhere that maybe I was going the wrong way with it, So I'm proud of that, like being able to collaborate and listen to people that have thoughts on characters that, if they've lived that life or somehow experienced something, they have more experience in that realm than I do. Why not at least listen to what they have to say?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not learning, you ain't growing. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, if you go in without, I dropped the link for the Indiegogo for everybody who's interested in checking out this film, XXX-MAS. I've had a great time sitting and hanging with you, James.
Yeah.
About an hour point. I'm rooting for you.
Thank you.
Awesome to see a filmmaker in Missouri.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be checking this out. Feel free to share. I'll share the link out, but feel free to post and keep us updated here in Doomsday's Krypt, and we want to know all about it. And
yeah, we'll do.
Thanks again for coming on the show, man.
Thanks
it was
for
real
having me, man.
interesting and good time talking to you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, check out those links. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so XXX-MAS, what else did we got there? Let me put it back up. XXX-MAS, and are both movies on Tubi, Fontaine, and
So Absolution isn't finished yet. It's in post-production.
Okay.
So it's about halfway done. Yeah. So the goal is to release both Absolution in third quarter of 2023 and XXX-MAS probably early December, late November 2023. So it's gonna be a busy year, but it's gonna be a good year,
Well, I'm rooting for you. I root for
Thank
all
you.
you independent guys. I'm real proud to talk to all you guys, and watching you guys kick some ass in the industry is always a lot of fun to see. So I'm gonna check out Fontaine. I'll probably check that out tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Let everybody get to sleep. It sounds like I gotta do a preview watch before I show too many people. Keep that window closed a little bit, but I'm gonna check it out tomorrow night, and I'm looking forward to it. Guys, Fontaine on Tubi. You said on Amazon Prime also.
Yeah. I think it's also on Roku now.
Roku, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think it's also on Roku. If not, it's going to be on there any day. But yeah, Tubi, Amazon. It's also
you said
on
as a filmmaker, Tubi is the best way to support you guys and filmmakers.
For sure. Yeah.
So hey man, once again, thanks again for coming on. Best of luck with filming, and like I said, keep us updated. I want to know how everything's going with you guys, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
I will do. Thanks for the chance to talk to you about some Christmas horror, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for coming on, and thank you, chat, for being here. Thank you guys for all the love and support for Doomsday's Krypt and all these different filmmakers. And I don't think I got any more live streams this weekend, but you never know. I might jump in. And I also got to check out Ravage Nation, his sequel. I watched Ravage. I got to watch Michael Moustatzos. I just got his Blu-ray in, and I'm going to be watching some Ravage Nation tomorrow too. So I got a double feature going for me.
Cool.
Fontaine and Ravage Nation. So until next time, guys, peace out. Happy New Year. Stay safe. If you're going to be drinking, don't drive. Don't mean to put that PSA out there, but hey, be safe, have fun. And see you in 2023, maybe one day before that. Peace out.